In 1905, a 24-year-old German émigré in London named Hans Wilsdorf started a small timepiece distribution business with his brother-in-law, Alfred Davis. Wilsdorf had a radical conviction for his era that the future of precision timekeeping would live on the wrist. At a time when pocket watches were the standard, he believed a wristwatch could be not only elegant, but just as accurate as the best chronometers. In 1908, he registered a short, memorable brand name, Rolex, chosen because it was easy to pronounce in many languages and would fit neatly on a dial. After World War I and shifting British import duties, Wilsdorf moved the operation to Geneva, Switzerland, where watchmaking craft and supply chains could support his ambitions. From there, he began building not just a product, but an institution, a company obsessed with reliability, legibility, and incremental innovation that would become the world's most dominant luxury watch brand. Rolex's ascent from promising upstart to a 10 billion franc powerhouse can be traced to one idea that sounds simple but is brutally hard to execute: make a small set of essential, highly durable watches, and keep making them better for decades without losing their identity. The first great leap was waterproofing. In 1926, Rolex introduced the Oyster case, an airtight, dust-tight, screwed-down fortress for the movement. To prove it wasn't marketing fluff, Wilsdorf sent the watch onto the wrist of swimmer Mercedes Gleitzer for her 1927 attempt to cross the English Channel. When she emerged, the watch was working. That image, water cascading off a still-ticking Rolex, cemented the idea that reliability could be glamorous. Next came self-winding. In 1931, Rolex patented a perpetual rotor that harnessed wrist motion to wind the mainspring automatically. Waterproof plus self-winding became the foundation of the modern wristwatch, hence the name Oyster Perpetual across the line. Over the following decades, Rolex layered on practical complications. In 1945, the Datejust combined chronometer precision with a date window that jumped at midnight, becoming a template for everyday luxury. In 1953, as mountaineers reached new heights, the company introduced the Explorer and introduced the Submariner the same year, giving divers a tool rated for serious depths. Pilots flying the new jet routes needed to track 2 time zones. The GMT Master arrived in 1955. Executives wanted an elegant instrument with day and date spelled out at a glance. The Day-Date in 1956 delivered exactly that. Each model wasn't a flashy one-off, it was a purpose-built instrument refined continuously year after year. The brand's design philosophy is ruthless continuity. The Submariner you see today is unmistakably related to the one from the 1950s, but everything inside is tighter, stronger, and more precise. Rolex engineers quietly redesigned clasps so they're easier to adjust, upgrade steels to 904L-based Oyster steel for corrosion resistance, grow ceramic bezel technology so color and scratch resistance are future-proofed, and push movements through multi-day chronometry tests. This is the cadence, a disciplined portfolio, a small number of references, subtle external updates, and major internal improvements. That discipline creates something priceless in luxury: trust. When someone buys a Rolex, they assume the crown on the dial stands for accuracy, water resistance, legibility, and serviceability 10 years from now. The way Rolex manufactures underwrites that trust. The company is intensely vertically integrated across 4 main Swiss facilities: cases and bracelets in Plan-les-Ouates, dials and gem setting in Cherbourg, movements in Bienne, and headquarters and final assembly in Les Acacias, Geneva. From casting its own gold alloys to automated logistics towers that shuttle parts between departments, the system blends human craft and massive industrial investment. The production numbers are a closely guarded secret, but reputable analyst estimates put Rolex output around 1.2 million watches in 2023, astonishing volume for a brand whose pieces are hand-finished, tested, and regulated at scale. And the demand still exceeds supply, which is why Rolex is investing in additional capacity, including a new production site in Buller planned for later this decade. Scale, yes, but never at the expense of consistency. That balance is the backbone of the brand. Rolex also built a distribution model that feels old school in the best sense: no direct e-commerce, no race to the bottom on discounts, and a network of carefully selected official retailers that treat an allocation like a responsibility. In 2022, Rolex launched a certified pre-owned program with select partners, starting at Bucher, to bring authentication and a Rolex-issued guarantee to second-hand pieces. That move reframed the pre-owned market from a Wild West into an officially sanctioned on-ramp for first-time buyers and a trusted lane for long-time collectors. Then, in 2023, Rolex agreed to acquire Bucher, one of the world's biggest watch retailers and a century-long partner, folding a massive retail footprint under the Rolex umbrella while letting Bucher continue to operate under its own name. With CPO and Bucher, Rolex now influences the full life cycle of a watch, from foundry and assembly to first sale, resale, and service, without compromising the aura of scarcity. Marketing at Rolex is less advertising and more ecosystem. The company sponsors pursuits where precision, endurance, and excellence are visible to millions: tennis, golf, yachting, equestrian events, and for many years, Formula One. In tennis alone, Rolex has supported Wimbledon since 1978 and now spans the Grand Slams and the Tours. In cinema, Rolex is a partner to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, designs the Oscars Green Room, and supports the Academy Museum. These are not random logos, they are carefully chosen cultural stages where timekeeping and performance matter. Notably, Formula One's official timekeeping moved to Tag Heuer as of 2025, underscoring how Rolex continually calibrates where and how it shows up. The point remains, Rolex attaches its crown to arenas where excellence is measurable, heroic, and aspirational. Just as important as where Rolex appears is how the brand speaks. Instead of celebrity endorsers who chatter about themselves, Rolex uses testimonies, champions like Roger Federer or rising stars like Coco Gauff, who exemplify composure under pressure. The copy is sparse, the voice calm, the visuals polished. This restraint suggests confidence. It tells the buyer, the watch is the headline. Consistency over hype, evolution over reinvention. You see the same message in the watches themselves. The Datejust does not chase fashion. The GMT Master 2 does not wobble every season. The Daytona's silhouette is still the Daytona's silhouette. That continuity gives buyers a feeling that they're not buying last year's trend, but a permanent object with a real use case. The corporate structure reinforces that long-term mindset. Since 1960, Rolex has been owned by the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation, a private Swiss charitable trust created by the founder. There are no quarterly earnings calls, no activist investors demanding short-term cost cuts, and no incentive to flood the market for a faster top line. The Foundation's mission in Geneva includes philanthropy and cultural support. In practice, this means Rolex can keep investing in better movements, stricter tolerances, service infrastructure, and measured production growth, even when fads would tempt a lesser brand to overextend. In luxury, patience compounds into value. Now consider the 1970s quartz crisis, a blade that cut Swiss watchmaking in half. Many storied brands abandoned mechanical craft, chased quartz, or collapsed. Rolex took a different path. Yes, it experimented in quartz, but it also doubled down on the Oyster Perpetual idea: waterproof, self-winding, certified precision in a timeless shell. It added sapphire crystals, improved bracelets and clasps, and invested in steel sports models whose aesthetics telegraph toughness and achievement. The result was a product map that catered to pilots, divers, mountaineers, sailors, scientists, and leaders, people who needed tools and wanted symbols. That duality, instrument and icon, meant Rolex watches survived as more than jewelry or gadgets. They were long-lived machines with stories. Collecting culture amplified those stories. A 1960s-era Cosmograph Daytona with a so-called Paul Newman dial became a legend, not because it was fragile, but because it inspired devotion. The explorer's link to Everest, the submariner's bond with ocean exploration, the GMT's association with the jet age, these connections weren't manufactured in a boardroom. They were earned by being present where history happened, and by making instruments equal to the moment. When you combine earned history with modern execution, ceramic bezels that won't fade, bracelets that articulate perfectly, movements with longer power reserves, you get emotional durability and physical durability in one package. That's the bedrock of demand. Demand, of course, is managed. Rolex strictly controls wholesale allocation, keeps model families tight, and rarely launches wild detours. When it does introduce color or precious metal variants, they are still recognizably Rolex. Scarcity isn't accidental, it's policy. Not to frustrate buyers, but to ensure that the after-sales experience remains excellent, residual values remain stable, and the brand's promises aren't diluted. With the certified pre-owned program, Rolex even brings a layer of official authentication to the secondary market, pushing confidence higher and counterfeits lower. That confidence lets people treat the purchase as both pleasure and store of value, which in turn supports primary market demand. It's a virtuous flywheel. Financially, this discipline has produced staggering results. Independent analyses from Morgan Stanley and Lux Consult estimate Rolex at roughly CHF 10 to 10.5 billion in retail sales in 2023, on around 1.24 million watches, numbers unmatched in Swiss watchmaking. Market share at retail has hovered around 1/3 of the total Swiss watch market by value. What's remarkable isn't just size, it's quality at size. The company invests heavily in manufacture, from material science to robotics that support human watchmakers. With the Buller expansion expected later this decade, Rolex is preparing to meet demand without surrendering its standards. In an era when many luxury brands chase hype cycles, Rolex has built a compounding machine out of patience, precision, and process. If you want to understand why Rolex became a 10 billion franc empire, look at how the company makes decisions. Product, small, essential, relentlessly refined. Manufacture, vertically integrated, capital intensive, built for decades. Distribution, controlled, partner-driven, now including certified pre-owned to steward the secondary market. Marketing, precise, measured, tied to genuine feats. Governance, a foundation that optimizes for the very long term. All of this turns each watch from a purchase into a long-lived relationship between the wearer and the object, between wearer and achievement, and between generations through service and resale. And consider how that relationship feels in daily life. The datejist is at home with a suit today and will be at home with a sweater in 20 years. The Explorer 2 looks like a tool because it is one. The day date has gravitas not because of its price, but because of what it signals: permanence. The Submariner's bezel clicks with a precision that tells you, without words, that the rest of the watch is built the same way. The DNA that matters won't change. When you see a crown at 12 o'clock, you know what you're getting: a watch that does exactly what it claims, for far longer than you expect. That is how Rolex became a $10 billion empire, not with fireworks, but with a century of compounding trust. From 1908 till the present day, it just keeps delivering. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more.